Hello, so this will be my tutorial for part 3 of assignment 1. So first let's just go through our tools real quick. So we have a 20mm, 12, 18, 6, 2, 10, 7, and a 5mm cutting tool, and mill tool, sorry, and also a slot tool for with a 15mm diameter and a 4mm cutting length. So this was our first operation. So firstly we started off with obviously a big cube shape slab, and I'll show you what we did. So all we did firstly was just to define our working area. So I'll show that right here. So our working area was basically just this area here, and it was just all around it in order to just get the first initial profile of what we needed. The tool we used was the 20mm cutting tool, and the lower level was the 76mm level. And finally we had a 3-step down and a 0.5mm offset from the wall in order to not cause any unnecessary mistakes in the cut. So let me just simulate that to show you what we have. I'll just speed it up in order to get this process going. So as you can see, all we're cutting is just the profile, the initial profile of what we need. And then as we continue with the cut, we're going to obviously fill in the details of what we need to do. So now for our second milling operation. So in the first cut, we did cut the holes, but there were obviously some leftover material. So in this cut, we just cleaned it up and made sure there was no leftover material. So here was our working area, just these two holes. And let me simulate it. We obviously used, I'll show you the tool that we used. So it was a 20mm, and the levels was this level right here. So it wasn't 0, since we didn't start from 0, we started from this level right here, which was -6.67. And the end was the actual bottom of it. We actually went further than the bottom to make sure there was no leftover material. So let's simulate it. And there we have it. As you can see here, we're just making sure there's no leftover material. And here is the cut before, here's before, sorry, and this is after the fact. Now for this one, we just cleaned off this little area right here, and I'll show you exactly how we did that. So firstly, obviously, we need to select our working area, and it was right here. Then we specified the tool that we needed, which was 6mm, in order to be able to get to the fillets. And the level it was just -49, and we started from 0. But we didn't need to, it just made it easier. And we made sure that we didn't have vertical wall fillets, and we also said clean during roughing in order to make sure that it cleaned off any excess material that we had. That was it, so let's simulate that. There we go. So that's what we did. And let me show you any excess material that was left over. This is after the operation, and this was before. So as you can see, there was no excess material left over. Finally, not finally actually, moving on. We made sure to add detail to this part as well, because the initial cut didn't fully get the measurements right for the fillets, because it needed a smaller cutting tool. So similar with other ones, we just defined the working area, which with these two areas here, and I'll show you the cutting tool that we used, which was 6mm instead of the 21 that we used at the very start, which couldn't get the fillet measurements right. And the lower, we started from 0 level and ended in a -55.167 level. So I'll show you what we did. So simulate. So verify, and there we go. There we go. So that's what we end up with, and as you can see, it's much smoother. And here is our final product after this cut. So before we had some excess material here, and after there was none left. There we go. Now for our next cut, here's the calculation of this. So this time it was time to do the cleaning up of this area to more detailing as well. So let's edit that. For this one, we used faces instead of working areas to make it, because when we used working area, it was much harder to specify exactly what we needed to do. So therefore, we used these two faces here, and the face on the outside there to specify our working area. So the tool we used was a 2mm end mill tool this time, in order to get to the fillets around here and here and here, and also to be able to get to the edges as well. So let's simulate that and show you that what we did. There we go, so that's what we ended up with. And here was our starting material after. This is our material after the cut, and this is before the cut. And finally, this was more detailed work in order to make sure there's no excess material around this area. I'll show you what we did. So we used a 2mm diameter tool again to make sure we really got in there and got rid of any excess material. And we used these two faces for our cutting geometry. So let me simulate that. There we go. So it cleaned up on the outside and also gave us that nice slit down the middle. Now for our drilling bits, so we needed to drill here, drill here, drill there, and drill there. And in order to do that, this is what we did. We firstly always selected our geometry for our drilling, and then we selected our tool. We needed an 18mm diameter tool first, and then we selected our levels, and finally that was it. Now we're simulating the cut. And this is what we get. This is our first drilling bit. Now secondly, we did was add the drills all around here. So now I'll edit that. So all that changed was the tool diameter and the geometry of the cut. So this time we selected these 4 drilling areas instead of the 2 that we had previously. And the tool that we used was a 12mm diameter instead of 18. And obviously the level changed. Instead of going down just that short distance, it went down to the very bottom. So let me simulate that to show you exactly what we did. And there we go. That's the final part achieved. Finally, we needed to do some contouring around the edge of the final shape, and also around here to make sure there's no excess material left. So now I'll show you that in here. So we used the outside area here as our working area. There's not really a working area, it's more of an outline to show the tool path of the tool. And then we used a diameter of 12mm. We could have used larger, but I feel like having a 12mm diameter tool allowed us to do more detailed cutting and was more accurate. And we used left side, and yeah, that was it. Let me simulate that, show you exactly what we did. So this is what it looked like before, and this is what it would look like after. Now, and for this one, exact same thing, just smaller tool and different geometry. And this is what we did after. There we go. And I'll show you before and after. So there we go. We removed as much excess material as we could. Now for this part, we use different coordinate systems. So I'll open up here to show you. So for this coordinate system, we made this outface as Z0, and in order to be able to drill the hole here and to work on this side as well. So I'll show you exactly what we did. So for this, we just drilled the hole here. So edit. We used position 2, and this was our working geometry. is the tool that we used with the 7mm diameter tool as per the specifications of the drawing, and the level was, we made it end up at this level here. And that was all. Let me just simulate that, show what I end up with. Simulate, so verify, and there we go. It would end up right at the center. So there we go, that was all. That was it for that one, for that drill bit, sorry. And now finally, we did a final cut in order to make sure to get as close to the curvature as we can, and to also clean up any excess material on that side as well. So let me just simulate that. Let me actually edit it to show you exactly what we did. So this was our working geometry. This is this is our target, and I'll show you the working geometry. This is our area that we worked with. And yeah, we used 2mm tool bit for accuracy and a lower level of negative 22.5, which is that face right here. Because we're looking at it from this direction. Let me just zoom out. This is our coordinate now. This is our zip plane. This is our 0 coordinate. So that was all. So let's just simulate that and show you what we accomplished. There we go. And here we go. So yeah, that's the material we ended up with. So there. So yeah, that's it for my tutorial. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching.